said Marcus Hayes. For years, I've been driving trucks across the country, leaving my family behind to make sure they had everything they needed. I thought I was doing the right thing, that my long hours on the road were for them, for my wife Laura and our daughter Sophie. I never imagined that while I was away, something terrible could be happening right under my own roof. When I came home after a 2-week trip, the first thing I noticed was how quiet the house felt. Usually, Sophie would run to greet me laughing, her arms wide open. But this time, she didn't. She barely looked up from her tablet. "Hey, Pumpkin, I'm home," I said, my voice a little too cheerful, hoping to shake off the uneasy feeling in my chest. She whispered, "Hi, Daddy," barely meeting my eyes. Something was wrong. I could feel it in my gut. Laura appeared in the doorway smiling, like everything was normal. "She's just tired from school," she said casually. "Kids get moody sometimes." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But as we sat down to dinner, I noticed Sophie's behavior didn't match what a tired child normally does. Her shoulders slumped, her fork moved slowly across her plate, and her eyes kept flicking toward her mother, almost as if she was afraid of doing the wrong thing. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" I asked, ruffling her hair gently. She murmured, "Yes, Daddy," without looking up. I wanted to push further, to ask more questions. But Laura quickly said, "Time to finish up, sweetie. You've got school tomorrow." I felt a tight knot in my chest. Something was very wrong, and deep down, I knew I couldn't ignore it. That night after dinner, I went to Sophie's room. I sat on the edge of her bed and spoke softly, trying to make her feel safe. "Honey, you can tell me anything. Daddy will always protect you." She hesitated, twisting her small hands together nervously, then whispered, "Daddy, don't tell Mommy I talked to you." My heart sank. I froze. Why was my daughter afraid of her own mother? Before I could ask another question, Laura appeared at the door. "Time for bed, Sophie. School's early tomorrow," she said. Sophie flinched under the covers, clutching her teddy bear tightly. I kissed her forehead and left the room, my mind racing with questions I didn't have answers for. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her tiny face, the fear in her eyes, and my chest felt tight with worry. Over the next few days, I watched her closely, at home and at school. She had stopped talking as much, she kept to herself, and her laughter was gone. Teachers said she seemed quieter, less involved in class activities. At home, she spent most of her time alone in her room, drawing or reading. Every time I asked if everything was okay, she nodded and said yes. But I could tell she was holding something inside. One afternoon, while Laura went shopping, I sat on the couch with Sophie. "Honey, you can tell me anything. Daddy will always protect you," I said again, trying to be gentle. She took a deep breath, looked down, and finally whispered, "I don't like it when you leave, Daddy. I'm scared. When you're gone." My heart dropped. I'd never heard her say anything like that before. "Scared of what, baby?" I asked softly. She didn't answer, just buried her face in her hands. That night, I made a decision I never thought I would. I bought a small, hidden camera, something discreet I could place in her room. I installed it while she was at school, choosing a spot where it could capture the entire room without being noticed. I felt a mix of guilt and relief. Guilt for spying on my own family, but relief because now I might finally understand what was happening. That night, I checked the camera from my phone around 11. Laura quietly left our bedroom and entered Sophie's room. Sophie was awake, lying under her blankets, tense, clearly anticipating what was coming. I could hear her soft whimpers, almost inaudible. Laura's voice was low and firm. "It's for your own good." My stomach turned. My little girl, afraid of the person who should love her most. I couldn't move. My hands shook as I held my phone, watching what was happening in Sophie's room. Laura was speaking to her softly, but every word made Sophie tense even more. "It's for your own good," Laura repeated, as if that justified her actions. Sophie's tiny body trembled under the blanket, and I felt an overwhelming mix of fear and anger. How could this be happening in my own home? I wanted to run in, to scream, to stop it all. But I stayed still, knowing I needed to record everything. Evidence was important. My daughter needed me to be smart, not just furious. I sat there quietly, my heart pounding, and watched Laura leave the room after a few minutes. Sophie stayed under the covers, her small shoulders shaking, silent tears running down her cheeks. The next morning, I acted normal. I made breakfast, poured cereal, and tried to smile. "Good morning, sweetie. Did you sleep well?" I asked softly. Sophie nodded, but she didn't look at me. Her tiny eyes were still haunted, and I could feel the weight of the fear she carried. I told her gently, "I love you very much, and I'll always protect you." And she gave me a small, hesitant smile. I knew I couldn't wait. I called my sister, someone I trusted completely. "I need your help," I said, my voice shaking. She listened quietly as I explained everything I had seen and recorded. Her reaction was immediate. "Marcus, we have to protect Sophie. We can't let this continue." I nodded, feeling a sense of relief that I wasn't alone in this. That night I stayed up, phone in hand, checking the camera again. Laura entered Sophie's room like clockwork, quietly closing the door behind her. Sophie lay still, holding her teddy bear close, her small eyes wide with fear. I could hear the muffled sounds of whimpers, each one breaking my heart. Every strike, every word, every moment of fear, I recorded it all. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. Days passed like this. Each night the same pattern repeated. Sophie's laughter was gone, replaced by silent sobs and tense whispers. During the day, she would hide under blankets, draw quietly, and avoid conversations. And all the while, Laura acted normal in front of me, smiling, chatting like nothing was wrong. I felt like I was living a nightmare, one I couldn't wake up from. One afternoon, I tried talking to Sophie again while Laura was out. "Sweetie, you can tell me anything. Nothing will get you in trouble," I said. She hesitated, biting her lip, her eyes filled with tears. "Daddy, please don't tell Mommy I told you," she whispered. My chest ached. This fear was unnatural, and I knew it was my responsibility to protect her, no matter what it took. The next night, I stayed up longer, determined to catch the full truth. I watched the footage from the camera, and again, Laura entered the room. Sophie shrank under the blanket as if she knew what was coming. "Remember, this is for your own good," Laura said quietly. And once more, Sophie's tiny cries filled the room, muffled by fear and shame. I realized then that I had to act carefully. I couldn't just confront Laura without a plan. My daughter's safety was the only thing that mattered. I needed proof, a clear record of everything, so that no one could ever question what had been happening. I spent that night monitoring her, making sure she didn't have to face another minute of fear alone. The weight of helplessness pressed down on me. But even in the darkness, I made a silent promise to Sophie. I would do everything to protect her. No matter the cost, no matter the risk, I would make sure she was safe. I couldn't wait another night. I had to make a plan to protect Sophie. I contacted a family friend I trusted completely, someone who could help me act quickly and safely. Every mile I drove that day felt heavier than the last, knowing my daughter was at home, scared and alone. That evening, I made sure everything was ready. I had copies of the recordings backed up, hidden in a secure place. I couldn't take any chances. My heart pounded as bedtime approached, knowing Laura would follow her usual routine. But this time I was ready. Around 11, Laura entered Sophie's room, quietly closing the door. Sophie hugged her teddy tightly, her small frame trembling. I watched, my hands shaking, as Laura whispered, "It's for your own good." I gritted my teeth, my heart aching, but I stayed focused. I couldn't let my anger make me reckless. I had to protect her, carefully and strategically. After what felt like an eternity, Laura left the room. Sophie stayed under her blankets, quietly crying. I waited a few more minutes, then texted the family friend. "Now go," I wrote. Within moments, someone I trusted was on the way, ready to help me make sure Sophie would never have to go through this again. The next morning, I woke up early. Sophie came into the kitchen, her small eyes still showing signs of fear, but there was a faint glimmer of trust returning. I knelt down and whispered, "Honey, I promise you, things are going to get better. I'm here, always." She clung to me, and I felt a sense of hope, just a tiny flicker, that maybe the nightmare was ending. Laura acted as if nothing had happened. She smiled, poured coffee, chatted about the day, but I had the proof now. I had the recordings, the evidence of what was happening. I could act, and I would make sure Sophie was safe. The plan was in motion, and this time I would not let fear dictate my actions. Later that day, with the help of the family friend, I confronted Laura. I showed her the recordings. At first, she tried to deny it, tried to justify her actions. But the truth was undeniable. Sophie's fear, her trembling, her silent sobs, it was all there. She couldn't hide it. I stayed calm, my voice steady. Sophie deserves better. She needs to be safe, always. This has to stop. There was a long pause. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on all of us. And then slowly she nodded, acknowledging the truth. After that confrontation, we began taking steps to heal. Therapy for Laura, parenting guidance, and most importantly, rebuilding Sophie's trust. Little by little, her laughter returned. The fear in her eyes began to fade, replaced by tiny sparks of joy. I realized something vital. Being a parent isn't just about providing. It's about seeing, listening, and acting, especially when something feels wrong. Sometimes, the hardest choices are the ones that protect our children the most. That night, I watched Sophie fall asleep peacefully for the first time in weeks. I held her hand, whispered, "You're safe, my baby. I love you and I always will."